first bring it in the start.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to roundup of round 5. On the top board we have GM Daniel Howard Fernandez against Brodie McClymont, and the game was a draw in the end, but let's see how that happened. So it's knight c3. Mr. Howard, Mr. GM Fernandez always plays slightly strange openings. I guess this is to avoid his opening preparation. Now back here, again, like I said yesterday, I can't see a good reason why you wouldn't play d5 now that you have the opportunity, but Black has decided on his system. So, and White's trying to gain space on the queen side with a4, a5. Well, now, as you can see here, a6 was actually a serious threat. It's a good question whether it's not better to play knight a6, because that does not weaken the b6 square, but that might have other downsides. So Black plays a6, h3, e5, knight b3. Black has got more control of the center, and should he be able to play d5, White would be in some trouble. He can't just yet. So knight c6, knight a4, which is a tricky little sacrifice. And then we have some tactics to figure out what's going on here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm nowhere near good enough to tell you, so I suggest if you want to know, you have a look at an engine. Knight a5, I guess, or ask Brodie McClymont, who is brave enough to play engine-like moves. And queen d6, and bishop f5 hitting c2. Very complicated position. Bishop d2 hitting the queen, queen d8, and now we have an ending, and b7 and c2 are both on. Rook takes c2, and now we have rook fc1. One would have to, I guess, figure out exactly why bishop a6, probably rook a8 wins a piece, so that's quite simple. Not entirely clear, but rook takes, rook b8. And now White can't really play rook c8 because of the bishop on f5. And after rook a8, now this is going to be tricky. Again, lots of calculation necessary to figure out why exactly White doesn't lose a piece. And knight to d7, and now lots and lots of things can take lots of other things. And the move g4. Again, the bishop can't really move. If it went to a6, then it would just get taken. If it went to e6, the bishop would just get taken, and then White would play rook c8 to swap off the rook and have a winning ending. Bishop f8, and now as we see, c5 is kind of attacked and hanging, a6 is hanging, and White just retreats to b3. Doesn't take on d7, and, well, yeah, probably because of bishop d7, and the bishops are still in trouble. Now the bishop has a retreat square, White retreats, and we have a position where White has kept his extra pawn, and Black will have to play very, very accurately if he wants to hold a draw. Yeah, which he did. And pinning the bishop on the back rank. Interesting. Okay, so pieces are even, and we have a tricky little perpetual by White, and our first game finished in a draw. Now, second game, G Nagauchi FMU. Yes, we saw this one yesterday as well. and I think we saw this one to its conclusion. French defence, Steinitz variation, and now in this position there are various moves. Taking on d4, most exciting line is undoubtedly Queen b6. Bishop e7 is a line that Alexander Morozovich liked. Black can also play b6, or the old standard line, which is bishop c takes d4. Knight takes d4, bishop c5, queen d2, so far main stuff. Now what Viktor Korchnoi used to like to do is to swap everything on d4 and then play queen b6, go into a slightly worse ending and then win it. Modern players are not quite as brave as Korchnoi. So this, I have to say, is a fairly new plan to me. It doesn't mean anything because I don't play this line for black, but it looks very interesting. You are willingly giving up your strong black squared bishop, but white finds it very difficult to exchange anything for the d4 bishop. If black had taken with a knight, now the bishops would be opposing each other. So and black prepares b5, launching an attack on the king side. And white finds a very brutal way to stop that, and at the same time get his knight on d6, but it doesn't seem to do a lot of good there, so I wonder if it's best. a6, so that the rook has to take back on d4 and not the knight from b5. And the knight on d6 looks very aggressive, and if this was a middle game it might be dangerous, but in an ending it's not easy to see exactly what white's going to do, and it could be easily undermined. And we have the one of the players just walked past. f6, and by playing quite standard moves, black has a fine position at the moment. And here we see what I meant about the knight on d6. It can take the bishop on c8, but that's not a great achievement to go from c3 to b5, to infiltrate via d6, and then to take a piece which hasn't moved yet. So perhaps he didn't want to do that. Instead, white tries to build up the pressure on the white squares, claiming that the bishop on c8 is bad. Bishop d7, c4, possibly not best. So after rook d8, bishop h3, and now it looks like white has a lot of pressure, and if he's given one extra move and can play a rook on h2 e1, or many other possibilities, he'd have a good game. But I guess he missed black's e5, which looks like quite a deadly move. And in fact, I now have the opportunity to ask one of the players whether he thinks that white just miscalculated or didn't see e5 at all. Do you think he saw e5, or was it a complete shock to him? Did he fall off his chair?
But, like...
Yeah.
He made a mistake on the moves by not... on move 17 or 18, right?
Oh, yeah.
Now it's dropped. So he probably realised now it's dropped and thought you have to give up the exchange.
Yes.
How does he get it?
Now,
G3 was... atrocious, wasn't it?
Yes, well, I think his knight on d6, the whole idea of putting a knight on d6 and an ending, okay, he can play knight c8, but it's not a great position anyway for white, I didn't think, if he takes on c8.
But it's just equal, right?
Okay, if you have to pick a side?
I don't mind.
Yeah,
I don't mind playing black.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yes. I don't think that I'd think that I'd gotten what I wanted from the opening if I was white. That's what I meant. It's black has sort of gotten all his thematic moves in, and black has gone from c3 to b5 to d6 to take the bishop on c8, which hasn't moved yet. So, but yes,
G3 is losing, I think.
but g3 is already losing because the knight, yes, it cannot in fact physically go anywhere. c4, and the same thing happens if he plays the immediate bishop h3, yes? Instead of c4.
I thought the immediate bishop h3 I can even play b5 or b6.
Right, okay. So that's one of the ideas of playing c4. And now the nice move e5, and now it looks like it's just the exchange. And in fact, when we were looking at this yesterday, your commentator was looking at rook e8, and well, black is obviously much better after many things, but didn't see rook d7, which is actually a very nice move, very entertaining. So for the internet, especially for the internet audience, and now rook e7, and it's just a matter of converting, because once the d5 pawn falls, white really doesn't have anything at all for the exchange.
h6 was a mistake.
Did he have
Because he could have played knight h3.
knight h3, and is knight f4 going? Oh, okay, because of knight takes, bishop takes, rook takes, knight to f4.
And then he's only pawn down in the rook game.
Yeah, rook takes f5, knight g6, king moves knight e7. But it's still a fairly bad pawn to be down, isn't it? Is that rook ending not still lost?
I thought he should go for it.
Oh, well, yes, yeah. It's, I mean, you either go into a lost rook ending a pawn down or resign. So, yeah, yes, makes sense. So the rest of the game is just technical, because the exchange is a little bit too much to give to a very strong player, and to Yi as well. So now black is just moving into safety, and that's a nice last move, king c6. Well, not last move, but virtually, and now the king just... that stops the king hiding with king a7, but that's all it achieves. Black takes another pawn. White recentralizes, and now that the b4 square is taken, white's still desperately trying something. Knight c4, and wins back the exchange, but it's a little bit late because the pawn will queen, and well, resigning any time now would be absolutely fine.
Didn't resign for like another 10 moves.
But sometimes it's enjoyable when your opponent plays on in a position like this, and finally couldn't find any more moves and had had enough. Being a piece down was okay, but a piece and pawn was too much. Okay, so we had a look at this game yesterday as well, and this is what we call grandmother draw. Sorry, I meant grandmaster draw. My mistake. So, actually we had a chance to speak to Paul Garbett about this. So here we have a Queen's Gambit declined. C5 is, I've seen it many, many times. It's a very modern move order here, where white gives black an isolated pawn but doesn't achieve very much. I don't know if this variation has a name.
Is this Tarash?
It's kind of like a Tarash, yes, except it's Tarash by, some kind of Tarash by transposition, I guess. But, so this is now semi-Tarash, yes? Or something like this, queen takes. And this is a position that we see quite often in top-level chess. I guess there's a reason why white doesn't play queen d4 immediately. Queen d2, I would say, I don't remember seeing that. I remember seeing, I think, bishop d3 in this position, or queen to d4. I don't recall ever having seen queen d2. So knight c6, bishop e2, castles, rook d8, rook c1, queen b6, chases the knight away, and g4. It looks like white is launching a vicious attack, but he attacks by playing knight d4 and offering a draw. Okay, which black seem to have accepted. Fair enough. Tom Maguire and Mr. Silva. I don't know how much of this game we're going to see because from what I remember, the last moves were not terribly exciting because white reached a pawn-up position but wasn't going to get anywhere. So this is kind of Kerr's defense transposition. Knight to b1. This is actually a standard maneuver to put the knight back on c3. And playing h3 and g4, back when I started playing chess, we were told that only bunnies put their pawns, push their pawns in front of their king up, but it seems that in the last 10 years all the best players in the world have been doing it as well, with white and with black. And I guess relying on the engine analysis that showed that there was nothing to fear. Now this game, we saw this. This is also a very funny way to... Mr. Silva doesn't mind a weakness or two, but g5 just looks very strange to me. I guess it kind of stops f5 immediately, but well, white was threatening c5 because the pawn on d6 was pinned, and white pushes. Now this is also a very, very strange move. I guess the knight's going somewhere, but yeah, you need to be very creative to see that move. Queen d4. Now queen d8, of course, to give the knight a square on d7. Then it goes to a6 anyway. Queen c7. White plays b4. And rook fc, rook ec8 to attack the pawn on c4, bishop f1. Rook e8. I'm not exactly 100% sure here who's better or why. Rook e1. I'd feel a bit uncomfortable being white in this position with the open king. Then again, black has us had a pawn side, and he immediately goes for the attack the pawn. Black defends and has achieved what he wanted. And it's kind of unclear exactly. Ooh, now that one. I understand that black was threatening b5 himself. It's just curious whether that was absolutely forced, b5 from white. So rook on e to a8, rook a1, and the rooks are swapped, and now, as we know, knights are better than queens. No, knights are better than bishops in queen endings. They're not as good as queens, but they're better than bishops, together with the queen only. And f5. Well, if white doesn't take it, black can block the position if he does take it. So I wonder whether that move is forced. That's another move that I would play reluctantly. But I guess it does weaken the pawns a little bit. Not for very long. h5? Yes. King h7 takes. Must take with the queen. Queen c8. Check. Check. It's not going to allow f4 to be taken with check. Check. It's just going to keep off the black squares. How clever is that? So white cannot take with a tempo. And So now white's going to try to avoid the checks, and black immediately goes for the swap of the queens. That doesn't kind of fit in with X plans, but now he comes, okay, and he claims that nobody's ever going to break through there. Just going after the c pawn, okay. I believe this game goes a fair bit longer. I wonder if there's any more captures, or let's have a look at 10 moves down the line. Nothing happening here. And, oh, look. Okay, I think we'll go back because something was swapped. Okay, so white moves away, and black uses this opportunity to grab the pawn. So white sacrifices it. Black takes. And now the pawn comes forward, and but black's got a eraser too. And one has to ask which one is more dangerous, because the pawn on d6 is not going anywhere while the king's there. And a exchange has been played. And this, of course, is a draw, because even after black wins the pawn, white will simply move into opposition like so. Well, that was a game that both players tried to make exciting. And let's go back to now this game. Stephen Solomon against Ross Lamb. Ross Lamb had been having a good tournament so far. And as a reward, he gets to play Stephen Solomon. And we have a line of the Berlin which I do not know. It's one where there is no swap of queens. And neither player seems to be keen on swapping. Okay. So rook a8, trying to provoke white into playing c3 and weakening all his white squares, I guess, but black doesn't want to do that. Sorry, white does not want to do that. Now he plays it anyway. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't explain that. So overprotecting e5, f3, and the knight is presumably heading for a better square than the one it's on. And this is yesterday's games. We saw your game against Mr. Fernandez, GM Fernandez. It was unfortunately way too tactical and complicated for me to work it out, so I advised the audience to look at an engine.
When I played queen takes a5, my initial idea of playing bishop e6, b6, rook b8.
Let's go back there, so that now that we have one of the players. So what move was that around here?
13.
Move 13, so...
Yeah, so instead of taking on a5.
Right, instead of taking... in this position.
Yeah, this is better for white, but so go back. Back. Yep, so if I play bishop e6 here, it's equal.
Yes, I thought that...
And that was my whole idea, but then for some reason I sort of goes with knight b6, rook b8, c4, and I just thought he's getting a lot of positional pressure. But it's nothing.
Yeah, bishop e6 looks like the thematic move to get...
It's hard to play a move like rook b8 though.
Yeah.
But if you go back earlier, to the point where he played g3...
move 2.
So here...
Yes.
So g3...
Yes. I have a question here.
d5's probably the man's move, but then I would have to think after bishop g5, and okay, probably d5's objectively best, but I didn't like bishop f4 as well.
Okay.
And okay, it's probably okay, but I just wanted to transpose into a knight off, so I went d6.
Okay.
And then after g3.
And you were hoping for e4.
Yes.
Okay.
Then I have to do, double question mark.
Yeah, so we now understand the reasoning behind d6. If white plays e4, through a very strange method, we have arrived at a Sicilian nade-off where black just plays e6 and it's a direct transposition.
So after g3, he's played a Sicilian without e4.
And all of a sudden I have remembered, I was trying to remember yesterday what knight c3 is called. It's the Van Geet opening.
Van Geet, yeah.
Van Geet. That's right. It only took my aging brain 24 hours to work it out. So
for some reason in this position, the computer actually likes g6. But from a human perspective, I think maybe it would have been more accurate to go bishop d7 and bishop g2 than just knight c6. And then follow it up with g6, bishop g7. And then I have a mainline dragon if he ever goes e4. But it's a g3 dragon.
G3 dragon, yeah. So anytime white plays e4, you're transposing to a Sicilian. But
I think g6 is inaccurate because now it's hard to develop my queen side.
But yes, especially after a5, you could.
And if you go back instead of h6, my original idea was queen a5, which is probably better as well.
Instead of h6, yes. In this position,
we'll
to play queen a5.
But after h6, a5. Yeah, so go h6, a5.
I can't. This is not an interactive board.
No, that's what happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then he plays h3, and I wanted to say to him in the game, are we just going to push our rook pawns?
Yeah, okay.
But after h3, it's actually a mistake because of knight c6, which is what I was aiming for the entire game. It's now h3 points hanging. And I'm fine after knight c6.
Okay, yeah. e5 is not a bad move. So we got to this position, and this is slightly better for white, is it? This looked extremely tactical, and I was...
Bishop e3 is the move.
Bishop e3, instead of trying to be smart and tricky, just putting pieces on good squares. Yeah, after queen d8...
This is back to equal now, I'm sure.
Okay, well, we don't have the engine here to confirm, but this just looked extremely tricky. And
after rook c1, I had to calculate. Go back?
Yeah.
So take it back. So rook c1. I had to calculate. Stop taking the c1.
Yeah, I'm trying to get.
I had to calculate rook b8, rook takes c2, bishop takes c2, knight c5, knight d7. I had to calculate bishop c7, knight takes c5, bishop takes b8, knight takes b7, and then I think he plays rook takes a6, and my knight gets trapped. So I think he wins. But that line doesn't work if the rook's on c1 because the a6 pawn's not hanging. So that's why I have to take on c1 first to go into that same variation, but the rook's under free square.
And here we have this variation.
But then he decided to take on a6.
This is the one I refuse to spend any time on because it's way too complicated for me to figure it out. So
yeah, it's probably equal now.
And so knight d7 is a mistake because of just bishop d7, yes?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the limit of my calculation. It's figuring out that you can't play knight d7.
Now here I had a very interesting practical decision to make before I played bishop e6. So my thinking was when the bishop was still on f5, if I take on a6 and he takes on f5, I take back. Even if by some miracle I'm able to win his b pawn, I don't think that 4 versus 3 on the king side is actually winning for black.
Yes, and you may not win the b pawn.
And then I'm in danger. So there was a lot of risk for no reward. Yeah. So I went bishop e6 and it's just completely equal. But
and this does look...
It does get interesting at one point.
Where?
So here, rook b5, knight e4. Oh, no, sorry, not there, knight e4. Now rook c1, rook b1 and rook c1 wins the exchange. But it doesn't actually win the game.
This is barely more interesting than the game between Paul Garbett and, from this point. The earlier part was very interesting.
The computer, I think, gives rook b1 check, king, it might be king g2 of all moves.
Yeah, king g2.
Rook c1 wins the exchange. He has to play rook takes f8 apparently.
Right. But after rook f8 and bishop e5, it's...
it says like 1.30 or something, but you can't win that position.
Yeah.
Still. 4 versus 3, 2 pieces, good coordination.
Still, you'd want to try a little while, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but I mean, I was content just to take on c3.
Anyway, since this is a quick roundup, we'll move on to the game that we were just on. And at this point, this is where we left it. And this is a game between Stephen Solomon and Ross Lamb. And in fact, white is just a pawn up at the moment. So yes, losing this pawn was not a great idea. Because now the conversion for a seasoned endgame player like Stephen Solomon, a pawn up he can usually handle quite well. And a pawn down. And 2 pawns down. But okay, so h6, I guess trying for knight g5, or I'm not sure. Rook e8 makes life difficult. And of course swapping as much material as possible when you're this much material ahead. It's a good idea. Knight f4 I assume will be met by queen d1. Rook and queen d1 anyway. And at this point it's resignable, and in fact black does resign. Now, Shravan rented. Oh, this was actually a nice game. I remember seeing this game, and we have Igor here with us. Shravan didn't make it today to play. I guess Igor must have made him cry yesterday with this game. Sorry?
He was with the outside.
Yes. Yeah, well, he was the exchange up. He resigned a clear exchange up. But it's one of those exchanges. So, the Botvinnik system. Did you attend the Botvinnik chess school? Is that where you learned the Botvinnik system, or?
No, I just play what he plays myself, and this is the one I'm having the most problems with. So.
Yes, me too. So, and in fact, I had the same story after I had a few games where I didn't get much. I started playing it with black, and also with great success. So, it's actually just taking control of at least one square, one central square, and making sure that you keep that central square. It's actually not a bad idea. It's creating a kind of a firewall. A5, and just not giving white any breaks. Knight e1, bishop e6. Now the next move by white, and the last time I played this position was in New Zealand actually, where I did in fact play knight c2.
Yeah, to knight c2 I wasn't there to d5.
Yes, yes, of course, and takes, and then knight e3.
And then knight back to e7.
And that's exactly my game against Anthony Kerr in New Zealand. So it's probably also the main line. And white then has f4 very soon, and has theoretically supposed to have some tiny little edge. But e4 just... Yes.
Both knight e4
yeah. Well, it seems to me that to avoid allowing black to equalise, white is instead just worse now. I'm not actually sure that f5 is necessary, is it? Black could try to play queen d7.
Yeah, knight e4 I think is also pretty fun.
Yeah.
I like sides.
But f5 is
I have to play it.
You have to play something. It's your move, so you have to play something. And f5 is not too bad. f4, but now it looked very nice. Queen d7 I still liked. Knight c2. Now bishop g4, okay. Queen e1. All the pieces are developed. b3. Now in this position, I didn't like your knight d4. I thought to myself, what I would like to play in this position if I was black is I want to play d5. Yeah. So first I play b6.
Yeah. But I thought b6, knight e3.
No, e3, well, okay, so bishop e6. It may even be possible just to completely ignore it and
Bishop E6 on knight G4.
and I'd be even tempted to let him take on G4. Like after B6, knight E3, just play D5 anyway. Can you? Can you get away with it? Knight takes and pawn takes.
D6 is
Or, yeah, but okay.
so B6, knight E3.
There still must be a way of making this work. Because,
I wanted to play B6, like I didn't want to play knight E4, but I just didn't see what to do against
well, B6, knight E3, move your bishop somewhere.
Where? Yes, knight G5.
Yeah, so what?
So with bishop E6, knight G5, and then...
Well, we haven't moved the bishop anywhere yet. Say EF4.
Doesn't the bishop go on B7?
No, well, maybe, but we're in this position now. So play B6, knight E3, and now EF4. My next move is if
knight
you...
G4,
Knight G4, Queen G4.
knight
What about queen D8?
Yeah, okay, is anything attacked here? Have we got a bishop check or an F3 move? Maybe a bishop check and followed by F3. Bishop D4 check after knight D6. King H1, F3. That might make your eyes water.
Yeah.
But in this position, with the queen on E1, there's some way that something's got to drop here. I don't know exactly what.
No, I didn't want to play B6. I just thought knight E3 was dangerous, but maybe I just was.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure either, and of course, it's easy to sacrifice your pieces in the commentary room, but it's great sacrificing other people's pieces. And then if you miss something, you go, oh, that's right, and you just go back. So it's all good. But yeah, knight D4, it's.
I wanted to play queen D8 and bishop C8 so I can go knight F5.
Yeah, well.
Makes
Or maybe just E4 first. E4. It's also a question whether you can play D5 anyway.
Well, yeah, I also looked at that,
Well,
but
knight.
again, it's my piece, it's not yours.
No, but D5, knight C5, queen D6. If knight B7, queen to B8. Okay, I'm trying to sacrifice the all of Igor's pieces, and Igor's resisting, so we're going to have a look. He did win the game with his method, but it's looking at it, since I'm looking at it from white side, I see all, like the black rook on E8 and my queen on E1, and I see that you can open the E-file and all of black's pieces are streaming in. Looking at it from white's point of view here, I'm very paranoid. And I think after knight D4, I would be very relieved to be able to get rid of my knight on C2.
D5 is also coming soon, right?
Yeah,
But here he played king H1, which is, I think, slow.
it's a bit slow, yeah. Now B6, okay, threatening D5, I guess. B4. And this is actually a very double-edged way of playing it, which is actually very nice because you will be able to protect your passed pawn on A4 after D5 and B5, which is in fact what happened. And okay, this is black is of course much better here as well. So perhaps the criticism of not playing knight d4 is unwarranted, but yes, b5. Otherwise, black's going to play b5, and it's finito la musica. Mind you, this is also not so pretty. a3, rook f7, knight c3, bc3. That pawn, I can't see white taking that pawn in near future. Oh, I saw the brilliant bishop c6, but threatening to win the exchange, but is that a happy exchange win?
Yeah. Well, I was going for it out.
Check. Woohoo! Well, yeah, that's.
I think bishops are stronger than rooks.
You think?
Because of kings.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair assessment.
But here instead of bishop b4, apparently he has advance. Queen e8, bishop e4, and king g2.
Ah, okay.
So there is no checks on f3.
On f3, yeah. But it must still be quite okay for Blakers,
Yeah.
or not? I mean, there's, well,
This is just losing.
yeah. Yeah, no, it's bishop f3 is too big a threat. Check, and nothing's happening. Trying to pin a rook, but unpins. Now we have a quick exchange, and white is very happy. At the moment, stops queen f3, but the queen had another square. It probably had several other alternatives, yes, but queen e4 just looks really fine. So, Michael Ostapenko, Jason Wang was the next one. And we saw this one. And it's 2:30. This game we also had a look at yesterday, and up to here this all looks reasonably normal. Both players are playing very solidly, not achieving very much. And where did we leave it yesterday? And knight g8 looks backwards, but there wasn't another really good way of defending against taking on h6. a5 to break up the position a bit and to threaten the c5 pawn. And so white pushes it forward. And always asks in these positions, why not take the pawn? But, okay, let's not be too critical. I'm sure the players thought about it. Black is very keen to swap material. f6, well, I guess overprotecting e5, although weakening the squares is not quite so clear to me why. Now, this move I just don't like. There was a knight on e7. Okay, it's kind of threatening knight to d6. White has a few threats, which is a problem. And now he's going to lose a pawn. And the pawn has been lost. Trying to get some counterplay. And white is actually just a pawn up. And there's a little mini combination from Michael Ostapenko. One wonders whether it's completely sound, but it looks to be. And takes, and it is a pawn. And through a clever maneuver, white has managed to protect his pawn. But black has a very solid setup, and in fact, here as we see, the game went for quite a while. And in fact, it looks like black has some kind of fortress. But the thing is, with triangulation, black managed to get, white managed to get some squares. And okay, this position, white has to maneuver around. Black can keep white out of the position immediately. But here we see now all of a sudden black is in a zugzwang position because he cannot move his king to a square where it protects the pawn. And king e4 is coming. I would think that in this case black needs to get some counterplay, so he needs to get his knight to a4 or d3. And the square that reaches both a4 and d3 is c5. So perhaps the knight c5 is playable in this position. Knight playable, good move but illegal. What I meant was knight to b7 with the idea of knight to c5. So like the same as in the game, but he went to f7, which really doesn't achieve anything, and after king e4, knight e6, the king comes in. So in this position, this is really after knight f7, white is just winning. I believe he can play knight to b7, and then if king e4 again, then knight to c5, or knight c5 no matter what. But after king d5, if he plays knight a4, then white can take on e5. So maybe knight to b7, and after king to e4, maybe e takes f4. Maybe that is the time for black to take the e pawn, because if king takes, then knight to c5, and the knight will get to one of these squares, and the b2 pawn will be undefendable. So, but he didn't play that, and now it's just a sad king and pawn ending, where white manages to get back to the f1 square, and therefore the position is lost. So we have another game, Tony Davis and Jaden Oy. Our other game from yesterday, so we have the bishops opening by Tony, attacking the king side. Knight to d5, yeah, again a move I'm not terribly keen on. White seems to be, well, okay. I really would like to know why rook e8 check is not played in this position. So a5, knight takes, it takes f4, pawn takes and knight takes, and this looks quite nice for black. So we saw this as well. This looks like just a technical win in this position. h5, curious. Oh, I guess he wanted to stop white from playing h5 and then checkmating on g7. So good plan, stop the checkmate. Knight to d6, queen to h4. Jaden, who's a pawn up, wants to swap queens, but isn't he losing on pawn on b7? And f7. Rook f7, knight f7. So black still managed to, well, here's a pawn up on the king side, and the knight cannot really move. Knight f6, c5 to create an outpost for the knight, so it will be able to move. Black plays b6, b5. The knight's gotten out, but the two knights are just nasty, and no, shouldn't have allowed that, and now this game is not going to take us too much longer. Ooh, okay. Two kings in the middle generally signify both black winning, white resigning, and to signify on DGT boards that you have resigned, or that a game is concluded. Both kings are put on the colour of the winner, unless it's a draw, in which case one king goes on a white square, the other one on a black square. Let's see, Ismail Ali, okay, we saw this game as well. In the end there was a rather bad mistake, and that mistake was, now we have a kind of a Sveshnikov defense. Nothing much happening except white at the moment doesn't have a very good bishop on f1, so I would much prefer to have black so far. a4 is the first move that I think is a bit unnecessary for black. Would prefer to play rook to c8 I don't know, maybe queen to b4. But since this pawn is not going anywhere in a great hurry, it's controlling the b4 square where it is. So now it's f4 is and f6. So in the space of a couple of moves, the position now suddenly starts looking okay again for white, because black has allowed white to get some space. And in this position, well, black rook f1 is a clever move. It's daring black to swap queens on c3, because after bc3 the knight has no squares. So queen c7, rook c8, queen h3, threatening checkmate, and now rook d4, nice move. Spoilt by the fact that in this position white doesn't play queen to e6, check first, and then after king h8, queen to g6, after which it's an immediate checkmate. After queen f5, white can delay things a little bit, black can delay things a little bit by playing g6. So, although it makes very little practical difference, in fact, black resigned immediately, so maybe queen f5 was stronger. But no, queen e6 is the more forcing mate. So what's our next one? And here we have the draw between John Bouchou and Martin Post as white. And in fact, we have a quiet opening. You can't fault Black's fighting spirit here. I mean, poor John's drawn 4 games in a row. He's desperate for a decisive game. He plays the most vicious openings imaginable, and it still becomes a draw. Sometimes you just can't win or lose. So let's see. This is a classical setup from Black, and White's playing actually my favourite thing against the Dutch, which is a King's Indian attack formation. And, well, okay, yes, seizing control of the centre now. Okay, c5 may be a bit too much of a good thing. It's not a bad move, of course, but I'd be quite happy to just keep developing pieces with knight c6 and wait for white to castle kingside. As soon as white castle kingside, you may well be able to just play f4 and plan to play g5 and h5 and g4 and like cut the...
Let's say c5 even first stops him to push d4.
Yes, it
and
does.
Also, it doesn't encourage him anymore to castle long.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for your just. I prefer development, and
I prefer C5.
you prefer c5. So it's a matter of taste. I prefer to get my pieces out, and c5 also creates a hole on d5. So, but it's not nothing tragic.
But I'm from the Mark Stokes school of chess, so I prefer to push big ones.
Thank you for your input. Okay, so takes now. Well, okay. So, and fe4. This now, Nancy, your white squares now are weak, because fe4 I didn't like. I mean, are you planning to play? You're not afraid of ef5, and since you're not afraid of him taking because you take back with the bishop, why not just play knight c6 and keep the tension? Yeah. Now this position suddenly I prefer white. Just because you have a backward pawn on d5 and you weaken your white squares, plus you've given up your chances to play f4 and do a pawn storm on the king side. So c5, so. fe4 definitely. I'm confident that is actually a mistake. So now. See, your white squares just look a little bit tender. Oh, yeah, okay. a4 can be played now. a4. It seems like a bit of a shot in the dark. Yeah, okay. It didn't seem to do very much. Knight c6, I guess it gets a white squared bishop, but white's, now this is if Mountain was one of my students in class, I would give him a stern talking to for not, hey, he hasn't castled yet and he's already wandering off with one or two pieces trying to do something clever, you know. Like, develop your pieces first. Castle. Okay, it's a little bit of swordsmanship here. Both players are manoeuvring around a little. And I'm quite happy with black's position again. Knight d5, okay. That's now the bishop doesn't go back to e6. Okay. Queen f7, now bishop goes back to e6. Queen f6. Okay, now I'm quite happy. What has white got against castling? Does he hate his king? Is it a suicide attempt, or I don't understand? Philosophical thing, doesn't know the rules. The castling rule, I want to know why white doesn't castle. g3, bishop e6, now castle. No. Check, yes, okay, now king f1. Castle by hand, okay, be difficult. E4 doesn't work. bc4, bc4. Oh, it looks like something. What? Is the d pawn attacked? What's this move? John, you're here. I can ask you. What are you thinking? I mean, it's got a nice view on a5. It may at some time, at some stage, be able to actually do something. No, okay.
Just going backwards there. But I think I wanted to push the... I don't know why.
Maybe you're afraid of rook a3. Possibly, yeah. Yeah. Queen g5 is an interesting move here.
Yeah, okay, important.
Bishop c7, okay. Now queen g5, come on. No, make a threat. Okay, rook b6. Rook b6 isn't a bad move. You're threatening to double on a file. That kind of makes some sense. Bishop c3, threat alert. Okay, that makes the threat. Out of the threat. Yeah. Okay, another threat. Defense. Okay. Queen e7, well that was a little bit of juggling around.
Couldn't find a better plan. So
Yeah.
Oh, that was a mistake. QCh was a mistake.
It looks like a little bit much.
Should have played h4 there. h4 would have been far better. So h4, winning really.
H4 would have made life a little bit difficult for white. Although,
Instead of QG4.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Rook g6, bishop d2. Bishop d2 threatens bishop g5. But now we have the tricky move. a3 to defend a pawn, yes.
now I'm attacking.
I'm one. No, yeah. I'm just wondering whether you can also play. No, this is a good move. And now bishop a5. No, okay, yeah, you can play e4. It's also good. But can you play bishop e5, bishop a5?
Yeah, I have to choose between that and e4.
So why did you?
Like
What happens after?
I guess that he's going to play bishop c3.
Yeah, but what happens after bishop a5?
Queen d1.
Queen what?
Queen d1.
Yeah, okay, well that makes me happy. I get rid of that thing on a5 which wasn't making me happy. On that bishop on c7 and swapping it for that bishop on d2. Maybe bishop a5, queen d1, now e4. Yeah? Yeah, that looks nasty. Because then there's no bishop c3. I think that just wins immediately, yeah?
Well, next move, I wanted to add grid.
Okay, but yes, in this...
I had to do something anyway.
Yeah,
Well,
Next move.
no, yeah, well.
but...
Thank you. You've been in trouble regardless.
Yeah.
Because
The
the
only
bishop.
the only continuation was queen takes c4. I'll play bishop c3, which
Ladies, ladies and gentlemen, a fight is about to break out in the analysis room. Unfortunately, I don't have the camera, so we can't watch, but but I think we can safely say that bishop a5, unless I'm missing something really major, just wins on the spot here. Just simply because of queen d1, there is no bishop a5, bishop e3.
Yeah, that would also be,
Yeah, that'll hold the position for a little while. So e4, still, it's something that bishop c3, a very nasty move, but
lose on the spot.
hang on, but
Lose on the spot.
why can't black play rook f2? Anyway,
You do it, but with the wrong rook.
well, yeah.
The other way.
The other way looks even better.
The other way is winning.
It looks at yes because bishop b2, he doesn't have to take the bishop, he takes the rook on f1.
I don't know why I rushed here.
You were just a bit tired, yeah?
I don't know.
But-
I'm winning either way, and I just.
But this also looks like it wins. Not quite. I see. I see, because after rook d1 there is no mate. And there's no checkmate, yeah. e3, good attempt, trying for e2. Rook e1.
E2?
e2 anyway now?
No, king's take.
Yeah, rook f1 and rook f1, rook c1. Oh, maybe it's not enough. Okay.
What about 95 actually? 95.
95 looks like a good move. Yeah, but...
Actually, after 95, bishop e5, rook
Yeah.
g2 check, he plays king h1, and then rook h2 check, king takes h2, queen f2 wins.
Actually, yes, there's a nice combination here with knight on g6 to e5, and if bishop to e5, then rook goes to g2 check. If white takes, the queen comes to f2 check, the king goes back to h1, black takes on e1 check, and then after king g2, queen f2 check, king back to h1. Does e2 really win?
No, because queen g7 made
Queen
all positions.
g7, queen g7 because of the check.
d5,
Okay.
and then you've got your bishop on d6, so you can drop back to f8.
Yeah, it's not all that clear though.
It might be winning.
So rook c2 seems like and rook queen f1, rook f2, and the players
I thought I'm winning
queen
here.
f3.
Another pawn, and then I realized. There's
Also,
the bishop coming back. This is, I thought I would win another pawn.
and
two
bishop
pawns.
g4. Yeah, and white's breathing easier now. And in fact now it's okay, so now we have an opposite colour bishop position.
This is gonna be a pawn for
Okay, and yes, now it's the players are now. This is interesting. After king f bishop a6. Well, okay, that's playable. Oh no, now the king is on f6. Now it's is it too late for anything? Is it too late to say you're sorry? Yeah.
Well, several variations here, but give me one on the road. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Oh, but white gives it a go. But now black has... Okay, so both players have now sacrificed pawns and gotten nowhere. So they decided to call it a draw at this point. Okay, we have one more game to have a look at from yesterday's round. for our summing up. And we also have the white player here for some brief comments, who seems to be au fait with the theoretical nuances in this position. Never seen Queen B6 before. Before Queen A3, Knight to B3. Okay, interesting. Okay, well, someone is going to have to look this up, not me. But this looks like a really sharp and interesting game. Where does the bishop go now? Bishop D3, that makes sense. Queen B4 check. Now, these positions would take ages and ages to calculate and figure out what's going on properly, if at all possible. The one thing that's fairly certain is that black should not be taking that rook on A1, because that would give, that bishop on G7 is worth more than its counterpart. It's rook on A1 at the moment. White's king looks a bit loose, but then again he has pocketed a rook. Queen F3 attacks. So at the moment both players are attacking each other's material. Yes?
So I checked this on the computer and apparently Queen E4 is a blunder.
Uh-huh.
Well, it's like, because White's winning there, but it's all equal after Queen E4.
So what should white play?
So Queen E3 or Queen E2.
Uh-huh, okay.
So this goes to B6.
Yeah, actually, going for planning to attack the king, moving onto a black square makes a lot of sense.
But the reason why Queen E4 doesn't win is pretty cool. So black should have played Queen takes on E4, Bishop takes, then F5,
Yeah,
Bishop D6, Bishop D5, and then E6.
E6, yeah, makes perfect sense.
There's no
Yeah.
move on that diagonal. And then, black wins the knight.
Yeah.
It's completely equal.
Okay, but he didn't do it. And now, the knight, does it magically get out? No, it doesn't have to. It's fine where it is. Well, the two bishops never make it that easy, but, well, usually don't. And, well, materially, it's not the exchange that is all rook down. I saw people resigned when they were rook down. Okay. Well, that's our roundup for round 5, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to go for a short break, and we'll get back to you with round 6 shortly. Thank you very much, and see you soon.